I wish to God I had all the videos of my cousin Brad reeling against TikTok for years and years and years and years. We could put a montage together. TikTok, Kami China, TikTok, 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 and now we're on TikTok. Unbelievable.
It's changed. A lot of that's changed.
Oh, of course it's changed. Of course it's changed. Welcome to Cumberland Unfiltered. My name is Gary, and I'm joined by Brad and Jason, my co-hosts. And tonight, our guest is a native Rhode Islander who grew up in Warwick. He has been an attorney for 18 years and a court-appointed bail commissioner for 10 years. He has represented District 22 in the Rhode Island House for 12 years, and he currently is the chairman of the House Corporation Committee. He has prosecuted cases in the Warwick Solicitor's Office. He believes Rhode Island families deserve to feel safe in their communities, and he stands up for the people that need someone in their corner to fight for them. He has spent his career in the courtroom, made the tough calls as bail commissioner, while writing laws that protect Rhode Island families. He's running because he already has the experience, the relationships, and the track record to do the work from day one. He will hit the ground running. Please welcome to the table the next Attorney General for the state of Rhode Island, Joe Solomon.
A little bit of my WWF. I'll just say you've been working on that one.
Thank you so much for having me here today.
Yeah. No, thanks for coming. Absolutely.
I asked a bunch of people before I knew you were coming on today if they really knew what happened in the Attorney General's office. And as I mentioned, I said maybe you could take a couple of minutes to try to explain some of the more important, things that you'll be responsible for when you get elected.
Absolutely. So many people don't realize what the Attorney General's office does. First and foremost is to prosecute criminal offenses, specifically felonies. We need to make sure that the people are safe in the state of Rhode Island, first and foremost. Additionally, a lot of people don't realize that any hospital merger and hospital sale actually goes through the Attorney General's office. So if a hospital wants to sell or merge, we need to review the documents, make sure everything's in order, and decide whether that should take place or not.
So isn't there one going on right now, or wasn't there somebody was lying somebody, and are you up to speed? Do you have to be up to speed on that kind of thing, or you wait till you get in there to catch up?
No, it's definitely something because the healthcare system is hanging on by a thread.
In Rhode Island, right?
In Rhode Island, it truly is, and something in other states as well.
Yeah.
But in this particular case, Roger Williams Hospital and Fatima Hospital were in bankruptcy court, all the way in federal court in Texas. Current Attorney General did a good job of ensuring that those two hospitals were purchased by another group. However, he didn't do it alone. In the General Assembly, we had to pass an $18 million backstop to ensure that deal went through and that that hospital sale went through. Because Rhode Island already has one of the longest wait times for emergency room visits. Had we lost those two hospitals, it would have been even longer. It would be in real trouble.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I can totally see that, yeah. I mean, go in there, you're in there for hours anyway.
Yeah.
Now you take two hospitals off the table, it's like, forget about it. Take your number, see you tomorrow.
Isn't there a hospital that's empty in Pawtucket when I drive? Right.
So exactly. So Pawtucket Memorial Hospital had closed. And with second Pawtucket Memorial Hospital closed, all those patients, all those emergency room visits went to Merriam Hospital. It overran that system. So if we lose two hospitals, it's going to put a huge burden on that system.
Yeah, I've done a lot of reading. I mean, in the paper, there's a lot all the time about healthcare in Rhode Island, and they want to do. URI wants to open up a med school down there and all these other things. I mean, I don't know if that's an adjunct to what you might be involved in, but the legislature, actually, you were probably part of it, made a vote on that, didn't they?
Yeah, so we're trying to open up a med school over at the University of Rhode Island. As we know, there's a primary care physician shortage in the state of Rhode Island, partially because the reimbursement rates are much lower than Massachusetts. If a doctor wants to make more money, they're just going to go to Massachusetts. And then the next big thing that's happening is so many of these doctors are actually going into a concierge practice. A few months ago, I just got a call from my doctor saying that he's going to move to a concierge practice and it's going to cost $2,500 per year.
If you don't mind, what's concierge practice?
Concierge practice is where a doctor, and I don't blame the doctors for wanting to do this, that currently the doctors see 1,300 plus patients a year.
Sure, I've heard that.
And they're reducing their patient load to about 300 patients. And what they're doing is they're charging their clients, their patients, $2,500 a year
To be like
or
a
more,
member?
just to be a member, just to have access to that health care. And it's nice for the patients who can afford that $2,500 a year because you're probably going to get better service. But what happens to those 1,000 patients who can't pay the $2,500 a year?
Yeah, right.
Where do they go? In a lot of cases, there's not even doctors available for them to go. I can tell you in my particular case, prior to the doctor I currently have, my doctor had retired. She was in her 60s, decided to retire, and I was looking for a primary care physician. It took about 6 months, a little bit longer.
Didn't might refer you to someone or have someone that she.
There was no one to refer it to.
Nobody
That's
to
that's the problem.
Yeah, I heard the same thing. I heard there's like an average, it's like a $30,000 difference just going over the border in Mass versus Rhode Island.
It is.
And it's like, that's a big number for a doctor who's, used to making X amount of dollars. Now they got to take on, like, even my primary care. This was a few years back, and he's like, yeah, it's ridiculous. I got to take on, I'm waiting in his office now an hour before I can see him an hour and a half. And I'm like, hey, what's going on here? Just curious. And he's like, I got to take on twice as many patients if I want to make the same amount of money I made 3 years ago because of the rates.
I will say we are making progress on the issue. At least in the General Assembly, we increased the reimbursement rates for primary care physicians, but it's still not enough. There's so much more that we need to increase it just to keep these doctors in here. But I also introduced a bill that would allow foreign trained physicians to practice in the state of Rhode Island. So these are doctors from abroad, different countries, who practice as full doctors elsewhere, no problem. But sometimes the rules and regulations to actually get licensed in the state of Rhode Island can be very onerous and very difficult. We see the business climate out there.
Yes.
It's difficult and it's unfortunate. So what we did was we passed a law that I introduced and I wrote. I believe it was Senator Urso, who is the sponsor on the Senate side. And it allows these doctors to practice for a year under the supervision of a hospital or someone else. And that's opening up the primary care doctors in Rhode Island.
They already do in Rhode Island, just not for the state. They practice at the VA. I go to the VA. I had a colonoscopy and endoscopy together, and my anesthesiologist was from South Africa. The woman doing the colonoscopy was from Brazil, and the guy doing the endoscopy was where was he from? I think he was from Puerto Rico or something. Not that Puerto Rico is not part of the United States, but they were all different countries that came over here. So, but that's a federal entity, and the other thing, a friend of mine lost her primary care physician because he just got tired of paying his malpractice insurance. So he said, you know what?
I've heard of that too.
But he said, you know what? In my retirement years, I could work another 10 years as a private, physician. He goes, but in my retirement years, I'm just going to go work to the VA at the VA. I'm going to have a 9 to 5 at the VA. I don't have to worry about, reimbursements. I don't have to worry about malpractice insurance. They pay enough money to where I could still live a really good life. And and she was shocked. She's like, she picked him, maybe 2 decades ago because he was a young physician. And she thought, I'll have him for the rest of my life. And he was like, no, can't do it. Can't make it work. So he went to the VA.
So who determines the reimbursement rates? Like where you're saying like the Mass pays more. Is it come out of the budget for the annual budget, like Medicare budget that you guys budget for, or where does that money come
Yes,
from?
and through the Department of Health as well.
But Department of Health that's getting the money from the federal level and then does the reimbursements. I'm just kind of curious if we reimbursed at the same rate as Massachusetts, would our taxes go up? Like would the rank and file taxes go up, or where does the money actually come from?
Well, in regard to taxes, I've always been a believer in if we bring more businesses to the state of Rhode Island, that's going to increase the tax revenue completely. So it's not that an individual taxpayer is going to end up paying more. I'd rather see more taxpayers, more businesses opening up in the state of Rhode Island to fill that burden. But some of the funding can come from the feds as well too.
Yep. We were talking before the show about some of the ways that you try to promote that as a rep. How is that possible to promote as the Attorney General? Is there a way you can do that as the Attorney General to try to promote businesses in Rhode Island?
I think there's a way to do it. I think we can find a way. I can tell you I've always been pro-business as a legislator, and I do want to bring that to the Attorney General's office as well.
Businesses are leaving the state. They're not coming into it. I mean, you continue to see the ranking of Rhode Island.
Usually we don't get in the top 10 on that.
Body echelon, yeah.
No, we're
I think they just came out with that about opening a business. I think we were like think we might have been 50 out of 50, or was it 48 maybe out of 50? But it was low. Whatever.
Yeah,
it
we
was.
were like 40, 46 or 48 in business friendly, and we were 50 in infrastructure or something like that. I forget what it was, but I remember seeing it.
Yeah, it's not easy.
But one of the things we spoke about was the toll, the truck toll.
Oh yeah.
How you barely had many trucking based businesses in Rhode Island just because of the congestion, and then to put a truck toll on top of that, or have a state like Rhode Island where you've got trucking can come right up 95, but if they have to spend the extra 15 minutes going around Rhode Island, then everybody suffers. And the miners or
Problem is, the trucking companies are in Rhode Island. Like I shut down most of my trucking because of that coming down the road, because it adds another $13,000 a year per truck.
That's why I voted against the legislation back when I first got elected.
Yeah.
It was a very hot topic, and
Yeah, and these guys don't understand it. It's like I'm doing local stuff. I'm doing Mass, Rhode Island, Connecticut runs. They're paying $500-600 a load. So it's like all of a sudden you gotta whack another 50, 60, 70 bucks on there. It goes out to the open market. No, I don't get that. I don't win that bit. So it's like you're hurting the local guys, because you're right. The out of town guys just gonna go around the state.
And at the end of the day, the truck companies are going to pass that on to the consumers. And we don't want to see the people paying more than they have to.
100%.
So you had a story about when in the legislature that when the toll thing came up, you represented your district and with what the people wanted to have happen, and you said there was a little retribution or something or other, which I guess is common, or what?
When I was first elected, one of the biggest topics was the truck tolls, that legislation coming through. And I listened to the people in my district, and I voted against that bill, very proudly voted against that bill. And I voted against leadership when I voted against that bill. And the very next day, I was actually removed from the House Judiciary Committee. In addition,
It's not funny, but that's how things go out there, isn't it?
yeah, but that I'm up there to do the right thing. I listen to my constituents, and not everybody's district had that same concern. That their constituents didn't feel the same way. But in my district, District 22, they did not want truck tolls, and I listened to my constituents, and that's how I do it. I fight for the constituents, the people that elected me to get me up there.
So that's what you need to do, and you don't always know, especially with social media. You can put something on social media, and the squeaky wheel is always on there. They're always saying one thing, and you have to just gauge. Hey, like when Brad ran for mayor, I ran for school committee at the same time, and the only thing I did for my race was I just put in the paper, this is what I'm going to do. And that was it. I didn't have any other ads, anything. I just said, this is what I'm going to do. I laid out 3 or 4 things that I wanted to do for the schools. I got elected overwhelmingly. I think that was why people resonated, with what I said, and with what I said resonated with the people. And now I have to put my money where my mouth is, So we had a meeting a couple days ago where there were 70 people in the meeting.
Oh yeah.
That did not want the way I was going to vote to be the way to go, and I got to vote the way that I said I was going to vote. And even though you're facing overwhelming odds, I just have to know that the people that elected me what I can only assume is because of what I said I was going to do. So
Standing up for the people is refreshing, especially in the political environment we seem to have now, because a lot of the decisions that are being made out there don't seem to reflect the best interest in the people that they serve. So it's it's good to hear that.
yeah, and you don't necessarily see the people that come to see you are not necessarily people that agree with you. They don't want to put themselves out there, but you have to trust the behind the scenes that the people that agree with you, are happy with what you're doing, even though they're not the ones that you're going to hear from. They're not the ones that are going to come out to the meetings. They're the ones that are with their kids or at work, and they're just hoping that you're going to do what you said you did. So you have, like you said, in my opinion, I am honor bound, for lack of a better term, to do what I said I was going to do, because that's what the people elected me to do. And what happens, south of my district is not my concern. I mean, it is a little bit, but my concern is the people that I told I was going to do. I have to do what I told them I was going to do, regardless of whether I get pulled off a commission. And I'm not on any. I'm on the finance. The chair of our school committee, she has like her number one that she puts on every commission, that She doesn't even ask the rest of the school committee, who should we put on this commission? She just throws them on there because they agree with her, you know? So, and it's not me. I can guarantee you that. So, but I haven't been removed yet. We're still there.
Did that additional money for the tolls get passed? Wasn't there something for software or something like that?
The cost of implementing the tolls is very, very expensive, in the millions of dollars from the gantries. And now the issue,
As of right now.
as of right
Additional
now,
money this-
because they haven't been turned on. So just to kind of go back, so they passed it. They were on for a little bit, and then there was a lawsuit. The Truckers Association filed a lawsuit to stop it. The U.S. District Court Judge Will Smith actually ruled them unconstitutional initially. However, they appealed it to the First Circuit Court of Appeals, which ultimately decided that they were constitutional, except for the part that gave a special rate to Rhode Island businesses, because that was built in to kind of to ease the burden on Rhode Island businesses. So they're considered. So now it's considered that they can turn it on. However, the DOT has not turned it on because they're saying that the gantries are too old, the software, and now they need millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars to update that software and get that in place. So I believe that's going to be happening sometime in 2027, but we're still not there yet.
But has the money been appropriated, or has it been voted on, or they're going to delay all this until 2027? Anything?
It's all in 2027. I'd have to take another look at
No,
the
because
budget.
I mean that would be good for. I mean, because
Yeah.
we're convinced that it's not going to stop with trucks. So I mean, we're convinced that there may be others like us that are going to be.
So that was the big argument. That was also the argument in the bill originally. However, in the bill, it was put that no cars would be tolled. However, that's only in the legislation. It's not in the Constitution. The legislature could override that with another vote and just pull that out very easily. Do I think that the legislature will do that anytime soon? No, I don't think the current legislature or even a recent legislature would do that. However, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, it's possible that they could do something like that, especially if there's a budget deficit, if they're trying to increase revenue one way or another. That's a very easy way of increasing revenue. That's not something I subscribe to.
What are the odds that those ever get turned on again? I mean, would you be willing to make a prediction on that?
I think they'll be turned on in probably late 2027.
Okay. So the truckers have to figure out the routes between now and
Yeah.
then so they can avoid them.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So anyway, now you had a debate today.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about what happened at the debate and, who was running it. And so everybody that is going to be in the primary was there today that's in the Democratic primary. So all your opponents were there, and it was being, who
Yeah, Bill Bartholomew hosted it over with WPRO. I believe it'll be airing soon.
where did you physically go to have the debate? Was it at a university or did you do it
No,
in
no.
their studio? or-
Over in the studios, WPRO's studio, over on over in Riverside.
Yeah.
Was it fun? Did you have
It
fun?
was, it was great.
Look at the smile.
I had a blast there. I'm really having a lot of fun with this election because it's so important to get the message out, talk to as many people as possible. And it's just, it's really nice for people to hear and see the differences between the candidates and show that I'm the candidate who's going to take off running and do this job.
Yeah, like I said in the opening, it appears that you're the most qualified person out of those four, and those other people really don't even have the time of day for that, right? I mean, if so, like they go in with on-the-job experience, right, and they got to learn. They have a probationary period, to get up to speed, because that can't be an easy job. And you just go in there and you're on your own, right? I mean, Narona's not going to lay back and say, "Well, I'm going to help you out" or anything like that. He bails, right?
Yes. So I'm uniquely qualified because I'm the only candidate who's been a prosecutor, a legislator, and a bail commissioner. So I've seen the justice system from every angle, and I'm ready to do the job.
Bail commissioner, just again, what does that? What's involved with bail commissioner?
So a bail commissioner / justice of the peace is the person who shows up when someone gets arrested, middle of the night, after hours, whenever. And I'm the one who makes the determination if a person's a danger or not. If they are a danger, then they stay locked up.
So you actually have to go to like a jail or someplace usually to make that determination.
Typically in a police station, sometimes in the cell block of the police station.
So are you a member of a law firm, or you've been practicing for 18 years?
I've been practicing for 18 years. I practiced with my father early on in my career. My father passed away 5 years ago, and I miss him daily. I'm currently practicing with some other attorneys in Providence. We handle a lot of criminal cases as well as personal injury and business law.
This race is most likely going to be decided in the primary, I imagine, right? Is there a serious general election opponent? Yeah.
So I believe this race is going to be completely decided in the primary. So we have 4 candidates. I am the only moderate centrist candidate in this race. I think my other 3 opponents are much further left than I am. There is a general as well, a person who's ran against Peter Nerona before. I don't believe he's an attorney though.
We had a gentleman come at we did a live show at the Second Amendment Appreciation Day at Addyville Gun Club, put on by Big Bear, and I don't remember his name. You remember his name?
Was it the which guy for the lieutenant governor?
Alan Gordon.
Alan Gordon. He was district attorney, right? But yeah.
Oh, that guy is the birthday. He was running for.
He had a ponytail too. You don't remember?
No, I didn't.
Only other guy I know with a ponytail. I know.
No, actually, he came over in the very beginning and asked if they
yeah.
had that big banner up in there. And
Yeah.
So
But,
you said he did pretty good
when
he was being interviewed.
he was here. He was a smart guy. He knew a lot of his stuff. But I mean, you have to have money. You have to have backing. You have
Will
to
he
have
be-
history.
Is he gonna?
To be in the general, I think.
In the
right?
general.
Yeah.
I haven't had the pleasure of meeting him yet.
Yeah.
But I know he's testified on some bills up at the State House before.
Yeah, but but I mean so the candidates that are running on September 9th in the primary, basically, pretty much guaranteed to be the candidate. I mean, you're not gonna say guaranteed. Anything could happen. We saw what's his name, Graham Plattner. You know what I mean? Like anything can
I
happen.
don't think we're looking at that.
No, I'm not insinuating that. But I'm just saying, everyone thought this guy's gonna win, and all of a sudden, all this stuff came out. But yeah, I have to imagine that whoever comes out of that Democratic primary is going to be the odds-on favorite to be the Attorney General.
As a moderate, talking about the 2A thing, I would assume that's because that falls into your wheelhouse in that position, correct?
Yep. So I support the Second Amendment, and I support all the amendments in the Constitution.
Yeah.
Constitutional. That's good.
Yeah.
We'd like to hear that. Because I mean, honestly, that's what's under attack right now.
Absolutely. And the thing is, we need to go after the violent offenders, the repeat offenders that we see on a day-to-day basis.
Yes.
Instead of the lawful gun owners. As a bail commissioner, I've seen oftentimes the same people reoffending, stolen guns with serial numbers that have been shaved off, and they keep going through the system over and over again. We need to ensure that those people are prosecuted to the fullest extent so we can cut the recidivism rate and make sure that they get the time that they deserve. Because at the end of the day, it's not the lawful gun owner who's committing the crime.
No. Most people that have guns just have them in the closet, and they see them once every couple of years when they rearrange their closet. They're just for home safety, or protection. They're not brandishing them or flashing them around.
No.
But it's the guys that have insidious intent that go out and they find these things, and they commit the crimes with them. And like you said, you're going to see the recidivism, and even though they're on probation or convicted felons, they're still committing crimes with guns.
Yep.
Yeah, that's correct.
And they're getting guns from other criminals. They're not,
And I go illegally to get them.
yeah.
So you shaved off serial numbers, find that in the shop.
And I would say more than probably, it's probably even higher, but 90% of crimes committed with guns are committed with probably pistols, because they're easier to conceal. You're not going to see a guy walking around the neighborhood to rob a grocery store or a gas station with an AR-15 because they can't conceal it.
Yeah.
Probably happens very, very minimally, but.
So you actually have some pull with that then, as far as the prosecution side of it goes.
Yes, absolutely. Especially the prosecutorial discretion aspect of it, which is very important. Like I said, we really need to go after those violent offenders first.
Yeah.
Those repeat offenders, the ones who are really causing the trouble out there.
Yeah, totally agree with that.
Did that subject come up today on your debate with all 4 people at the table?
It did come up, and especially the assault weapons ban. I voted against the assault weapons ban. I believe it went too far. I think it also went beyond what the federal government had passed back in 1994, if you remember that assault weapons ban, as well as what Massachusetts does. I think Massachusetts has one of the most restrictive gun laws in the country. But one thing I will say is that the U.S. Supreme Court's actually going to be taking up this issue very, very soon. They've already decided that in October that they're going to hear arguments on it, and I believe they're going to take a position that's going to deal with this issue once and for all.
I saw they just shut that down in New Jersey.
Yep. Third Circuit Court of Appeals.
Yeah.
En banc.
Which is good. Do you think they'll make that decision before the election in November, or that'd be like right after the?
I think it'll probably be right after.
Yeah.
Because they're hearing arguments in October, and the Supreme Court doesn't move too quickly.
Too quick, yeah.
And it would be interesting how they actually decide that, with the language of it, because there's a lot of stuff that they can encompass in it.
Where you're even after that, you get like the lawyer on our school committee. He was saying if you get 3 lawyers in a room and they all listen to the same, the same opinion, they're all going to come out with different opinions of what that opinion was. And that happened for us. We had we have a transgender policy in our school that forbids our school from telling a parent if their child comes in and wants to change their gender. The Mirabelli case, the Supreme Court issued, it wasn't a decision, but it was, they called it an opinion or something? An opinion or shadow something or whatever. Just saying that they were going to look further into this, and they gave the indication that they were going to rule in favor of parental rights versus, not being able to tell. And our lawyer initially told our policy committee that you have to withdraw this part of the policy, which we never had to put in. There was no law saying we had to put that in the first place. But he said you have to withdraw this because now it's law. In between that policy meeting on Tuesday and the actual meeting on Thursday, he changed his mind. He went back and read more stuff and changed his mind because another lawyer came in and made a better case as to why you don't. It's not legally obligated. So we didn't end up changing it. But yeah, unless you have that very, very strict, easy to understand decision from the Supreme Court, people are gonna make the decisions the way that they feel. You need to have that nailed down.
But even looking at the Bruin decision, we're seeing that lower courts are interpreting it at different ways.
Yeah. And I wonder how that affects, like, if all of a sudden it becomes federally legal to own an AR, say. So does that mean the businesses in the state are allowed to sell those again?
Potentially, yes.
Yeah. So they just have to.
I'm sure it's going to be a very long opinion.
Yeah,
it's probably going to be a 150-page opinion what they do ultimately decide one way or another.
Has it been heard at the court yet or no?
No, it's being heard. So they decided to take up 2 cases. One of them is on the Connecticut ban that's been in place. I believe they have a registry in Connecticut. And then I forget which other state was also part of that ban, that case that they're taking up.
That's what Folks was running. She was talking about was a registration.
And there was also talk, there was a bill this year, and you hate to see it when they push a certain bill and then the following year they come back and they say, now we want to criminalize possession. And even the advocates of the original assault weapons ban said the possession part, it's gone too far. It probably is not constitutional.
Right. Yes.
Which I agree. I believe that's completely unconstitutional.
I would agree with that because you're right. It's almost confiscation.
It is.
Become a felon for owning one.
It is.
So it's like, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. God,
and it comes down to a possession issue. If they're going to literally confiscate it, it's a taking of property without compensation. And take away the weapons aspect of it, it could be anything. It could be your car. The federal government decides that, or the state decides that your car is illegal, and we're going to confiscate it. If you don't get rid of it in 90 days, you're now a felon. So it's something we have to protect against.
Slippery slope or something.
Very slippery slope.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I'm also guessing that your opponents at the debate didn't look at 2A the way you looked at it.
Correct.
So if they're on the left-hand side, then they might. Did they talk about supporting things, or did anybody individually say that, or?
I think terminology used not to identify any one particular candidate. They used the terminology weapons of war for assault weapons. And, when I think of like a weapon of war, I think of like an automatic gun. And we know that automatic guns have been illegal in the state of Rhode Island for many years. I don't even know how far back, before I was born probably.
So that like delineates you a bit. I mean, as
Definitely.
far as one of the things from here is it's a check in the good column for us.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
We see it, right?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt.
But, and then, so how important are endorsements? Because I saw you had a bucket load of them. I mean, I was
Endorsements are
this
so-
guy and that guy and this guy and that guy and this guy.
So I appreciate all the endorsements I've gotten. So right away, the Rhode Island Troopers Association, they supported my candidacy right away. the Fraternal Order of Police, the International Brotherhood of Police Officers, the Rhode Island Brotherhood of Correctional Officers. They have all endorsed my candidacy, including Senate Majority Whip David Takoyan, who's a former chief of this North Providence Police Department. So it's something, their confidence in me to get the job done says a lot.
Yeah, 100%.
So when you advertise, would you put stuff like that? I mean, I know it's on your website. Isn't that where I saw
It's on my website. It's on a lot of my paraphernalia as well.
And there's a lot of like politician people too, weren't there? Like a lot of individual people that were.
Well over 16 of my colleagues in the General Assembly are supporting my
I mean,
candidacy.
that's a pretty big number, right? I mean, I don't know. I didn't actually go to the websites of your opponents, but I mean, I thought that was rather impressive. I've never seen anybody with that many, so I don't know if that's an aberration or if in fact
It's I'm the only one who has that much support.
And you didn't
that
even-
number's much higher than that, but I lost count after 16.
But I mean, they come to you, right, and say we'd like to support you because they appreciate what your positions are and it represents how they think most likely.
Yes,
Also,
and they know I'm the type of person to come to the table and let's talk about an issue. You know, we see what's going on in Washington, where you have people on both sides not communicating with one another.
Yeah.
You know, they're on separate islands. I've always been the type of person as a legislator to get everybody together, sit down at the table, get all the stakeholders, because when you do that, you realize that you agree upon about 80% of everything. And then let's fight about the other 20% later, but let's agree on that 80% and go from there. That's how we get things done. Because at the end of the day, when government works, when we all work together, it's a win for the people.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, 'cause you don't see a lot of that reaching across the island anymore, especially at the Washington level. Like you said, it's so polarized.
Yeah.
It's like hard stance this way, hard stance this way. There's no communication in the middle.
And I've always been willing to reach across the aisle. Think of the Inspector General, the Office of Inspector General.
right?
That's a legislation that we passed this year. The Republicans for many years, and there were some Democrats that supported that legislation. I was one of those Democrats that supported the legislation, working with the Republicans. And this year, Speaker Blazewski, who's a Democrat, he made that his priority. Once he went into office, we passed it in the House, passed it in the Senate, the governor signed it. And now we're ready to go.
Did they leave the part in there though about how the legislation can't be investigated?
I think they could have. I understand why they took it out because of a separation of powers issue, but I would like to see that office is expanded.
Yeah.
So let's start from there. Let's get this in play. We'll get the office going. Let's see where there's waste. We'll see how we can improve things, and hopefully that legislation will get amended.
That's been something that a lot of people have tried over the last few years, right? I mean, and then you guys got it done.
It's been around easily since the 12 years I've been on the General
All
Assembly.
the time.
So it was nice to see it get done. We got it done quick.
One of the things we had Mike Chippendale on a few times. He was on at the Addieville, the live show, and he said that, and Brad and I see it in town. There's when you only have one party, that party starts to eat itself. You know what I mean? So, and we've been accused on the show of having right-wing people all the time. Like, but most of the people we have on are Democrats.
Yeah.
So are you any less a Democrat than the far left people? Because we had Mark Misrovi, and we had Brian Coogan, most of the people we've had on are most of the people we've had are Democrats. So Vanessa Lopez, you know what I mean? But it's almost like we're accused of having the wrong Democrats on. No, really. Is that something you see? Is there a divide in the state, political party where there's moderate Democrats and far left Democrats, and you guys?
I'm a lifelong Democrat. I believe the Democratic Party. If I could just speak to the Democratic Party, I think we have a Big Ten.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for diversified ideas. But at the end of the day, we all got to work together. We all want to do what's best for the state of Rhode Island. And no one party has a monopoly on good ideas. No. So by working together, let's just do it for everybody. Let's skip the politics.
Yeah.
Let's get to how we can make Rhode Island better.
So that's why I say we went to the parade, the Arnold's Mills 4th of July parade, which next time you got to go, we'll do a float for you. We had great floats. But the Democratic Town Committee was in front, and Brad was not he ran as an independent. we're nonpartisan. The school committee council's nonpartisan, and the Democratic town committee, who a bunch of people on it, I know, and one of the guys came up and he was like, I agree with your side. I'm like, my side? If you take that, if there were 100 issues and you were like, these are Democrat issues, these are Republican issues, I'd probably be 60-40s, 55-45, you know what I mean? I'm not, so for them to be like, I'm on your side, and the problem is, like you were saying, that nobody wants to lose their position in that government, and if they don't do what is they're told to do, they'll lose their leadership. They'll lose their their board positions and committee positions and things like that. Anyway,
I think most people are in the middle. Really. Like, I think there's a silent majority out there that's in the middle. They just want to live their life, not cause any trouble, not go too far left, not go too far right. And when you look at the federal level, look at a presidential election. To win a Democratic primary for president, you have to be so far left.
Yeah.
To win a Republican primary for president, you have to be so far right. If you're not on those fringes, you're not going to get through that primary. And then when the general comes, they all start to kind of shift a little bit to the middle.
That's a good point.
But I wish we could be in a system where people just work together and just want to do the right thing. And I feel like we'll get there. We'll definitely get there. But there's definitely that silent majority out there. They just have to realize that so many times that the primaries are what actually decide who your next officer is going to be. Because I look in the state of Rhode Island, the Democratic there's 1.1 million Rhode Islanders in the state of Rhode Island. There's probably about 110,000 people that are going to come out in the Democratic primary. And that's what's going to determine this primary.
10%, but that's including kids too, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, no, but 110,000 voters.
Yep.
So I'm not sure. It's probably about 800,000 eligible voters in the state of Rhode Island, but there's about 110,000 people that are actually going to come out in the Democratic primary and decide who your next potentially governor is, who your next attorney general is. And that's why it's so important, especially for unaffiliated voters. They can pick and choose which primary they want to be in.
Right.
So you don't have, years ago, you would have to actually become a Democrat to vote in a Democratic primary or become a Republican, vote in a Republican primary. We changed the law that if you're unaffiliated, you just pick which ballot you want, you go in, you vote, and you walk out. You don't have to disaffiliate again, affiliate and disaffiliate like you did before.
And in Cumberland, we know that, we have to, if we want to pick our mayor, you have to vote in a Democratic primary. The only general election was yours 2 years ago. Other than that, for decades it was decided in the primary. So if you want to pick your mayor, you have to vote in a Democratic primary. If you wait till the general election to vote for whoever you want to vote for on either side.
And you're right, it's a very small percentage. Like even in this town, it's like you had 28,000 voters, and the last primary had 2,500. And just small votes.
Total.
Yeah, which is crazy. And I showed
Brad a statistic that was done by the Projo, whatever, about independent candidates. It's even insanely more dismal for the independent candidate. It's like 39 one year, one got in. 22 the next year, one got in. You know what I mean? Because they just don't have a base. It's hard. It's a hard path to being independent, and and that's why we're basically a one-party state, but barely a two-party. And that's why they eat their own, I think. Like my father was a quote-unquote Kennedy Democrat. I was a Kennedy Democrat. You know what I mean? I'm a true independent now, but I was a Kennedy Democrat. And there's still a lot of things where if I told a Republican I believe this, they'd be like, well, you're not a Republican. If I told a Democrat I believe this, you're not a Democrat. I'm like, well, what the hell am I then?
Yeah, I was first to get rid of the party system.
Why is it black or white? Why do I have to agree with 100% of what you think to be in that party? But yeah, if more people voted independent, or there were more quality independent candidates, maybe a lot of that, maybe people would come further to the center, because there wouldn't be so much power on the people that control the people.
The one party.
Well, the people that control the people you vote in.
Yeah.
Like that's what it is. There are people there that control the people you vote in. You can say this is what I'm going to do, and then when you go to vote that way, if you vote that way, now you're off of this committee. You're in the basement office.
Yeah.
Nobody talks to you. Nobody's coming to your fundraiser. You know what I mean? And it's just too bad.
Well, that's why you got to get up there and just stick to your guns, and you can't worry about being thrown even if they move you to the outhouse. So you got to make the right decision for the people. That's like bottom line, right? That's what you hired to do.
And I got to tell you, though, so many people don't realize that their vote counts. They're frustrated by the system. They're like, it's already set and done. My vote's not going to count. I've seen a lot of elections that have been decided by one vote.
Yeah.
A single vote.
Really?
I've seen it a bunch of times over the years. And that's one more house that you could have knocked on to flip that election.
If you look at the Bush-Gore presidential election,
Yeah.
that went to a couple of hanging chads and a recount out in Florida. You know what I mean? Like, my God, it was a couple of hundred votes or something like that. And But anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's so it's just important. So I just want to tell the people that they really need to get out and vote because every single vote counts, and especially in a primary.
And if you care enough, like I said, there are 5,000 different issues you could be. So people always used to tell me I'm a one issue voter. I'm a one issue voter. And then when I got out of there, when I was in the Army for a long time, and if I ever told somebody I'm a one issue voter, what's your issue? Support for the military. You asshole. I'm like, wait a minute, how come you can be a one issue voter, but I can't be a one issue voter? You know what I mean? Like, I'm in the military. It's my job. And but a lot of these people stick to their guns, and they're gonna stick to their party, not knowing that if they voted for a different candidate, at least you get 25 or 30% of what you're looking for, as opposed to 100%. Yeah, if the other candidate, you get 0. You know what I mean? So baby steps, and the more moderate Republicans or Democrats that we get in office, the narrower those people come back. They come off the edges and they come back to the middle, where most of us are. I have to believe most Rhode Islanders are closer to the center than they are to the wings.
Definitely. And you're never going to get that one candidate that you agree 100% with that person. But one thing I can promise you, at least with me, is that there's always an open door. There's always a line of communication. I pass out cards with my cell phone number on it. And I've always been, exactly, and I've always been accessible in the 12 years I've been in the General Assembly. People call me, they know how to get in touch with me. And I'll sit down, we'll discuss the issues, and we'll try to come to a resolution. We'll try to make everything better. I keep an open mind.
What's your position on sludge patties? sludge cakes.
That's an important issue.
That was our last two episodes.
That is something else. I got to tell you, with the whole Quonset issue, I was down there. I was at that hearing, that public meeting down in North Kingstown. That auditorium was full of people. Yeah. And the problem with that project was they didn't notify. They did it they didn't notify anyone.
Yeah.
They did it in closed session, executive session. That's when they approved it. And you just need to keep the people informed. Let them know what's going on in their area. When you try to sneak it in, it's going to cause a huge problem. So whether that project should go, I don't really believe it should happen, but you should just give the people an opportunity to have an opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, they're very passionate about that. And like you said, it's because, a lot of people might just be like, oh, who cares? Who cares? They're going to do what they can to contain the smell. Anybody who's ever driven down 295, not so much now, 5, 6, 7 years ago, you could smell the Johnson landfill. Yeah, on 295. It was just a horrific smell. Think to yourself, you have to live around here. And those laws were already in place. They were supposed to contain it. It took years before they finally contained it. So you got to feel for the people that are going to live around that thing, you know what I mean? Because they know that it's just lip service. They're going to say, oh, we're going to put this in place, put that in place. But if it doesn't happen, they're going to have to complain for years to get it done. Who wants to live through that? Anyway, I didn't mean to bring that up. That's a different.
I agree.
But you're right on the border there.
I think that's going to get decided in the legislature, though, right? Whether or not they proceeds or doesn't proceed.
There's a study commission. They put it on hold. Who didn't study? Oh my God! And actually, the bill actually. So I'm chair of the corporations committee. That bill actually came through my committee. So we put a hold to anything happening with that project until they can come back with the study, because at the end of the day, something has to happen with the sludge. It's going to go somewhere. My biggest concern, because speaking about the Rhode Island Resource Recovery, the dump in Johnston, is that you can't have any out-of-state waste in the dump in Johnston. It's illegal to bring out-of-state waste. With this sludge, theoretically, they would be able to bring out-of-state sludge into Rhode Island.
Really?
And that's what currently happens in Woonsocket in their facility, which is going to be closing soon.
That's what I thought. Yeah, and there's no other resolution, right?
No. I think Cranston's the only other plant, right, besides Woonsocket?
that's currently in business. So I mean, but that's because it's got to have to go somewhere, because they say it's extremely expensive to go across the state line to take it to somebody else. So I don't know.
So I have a personal issue I need to ask. Transparency.
Yes.
So the Attorney General handles Open Meetings Act. They handle access to public records requests.
Yes.
The reason I got into politics as seriously as I did, instead of just a casual observer, was because my son was assaulted in high school. He was taken by rescue to the Hasbro Children's Hospital. He was knocked out, one of the seizures, and was taken by rescue. I went to the police station to get the police report. They wouldn't give it to me. So I requested, again, formally, the police report. Again, they wouldn't give it to me. I had to go all the way through the Attorney General, Access to Public Records Act. I had to appeal it. The town solicitor fought me tooth and nail. They ended up going beyond the time that they were allowed by law. And they were, of course, they were, hey, don't do that again, but no real penalties. The police did it, and then it happened again. At the end, I was still not given my minor son's police report. I still don't have the police report. I have no idea what happened to my son. I have no idea what the police report said. And then they did an investigation in the school, and they sealed that report too. So my son was knocked out, went into convulsions, taken to the hospital. As a parent, I have no idea what happened to him. So to me, transparency in the Attorney General, and the Attorney General ruled that I didn't have
Standing or something like that?
I don't know if it was standing or what it was, but it was. They said it wasn't a public record because it was minors. Yeah, I get it. It was minors, but you can redact.
What is your kid?
Yeah, it was my kid. And how do I know? Let's say, and I believe that I know for a fact there were policies that were violated because the investigation showed that there were policies that were violated. How do I know to take any kind of civil action if they won't give me the police report? Or how do I know to, the next day when the police officer came to my house and wanted to get my son's statement, at the end he asked me, "Well, do you want to file charges?" I said, "How do I know? I don't. I guess I'll have to wait for the police report." He was like, "Okay, I'll wait for the police report." When I went to get it, they were like, "Nope, can't have it. You can't have the police report." So that, to me, that's a problem. So
yeah, that is a problem. That's definitely a problem. So that's the other duty of the Attorney General's office, is to handle any open government or access to public record appeals and whatnot. That's definitely a huge issue. And I've always been a huge proponent of open government. And I've introduced a bill 2 years ago. I introduced a bill, Senator, with the senator on the other, on the side, Chairman DePalma, had introduced the bill, and I had the House version of that bill. So we want to see more transparency, because the people have a right to look at the documents. I mean, there's no sense, especially in your particular case, where your son was assaulted.
Yeah.
So that is something like that should absolutely be released. I mean, there are also instances where police are not producing the body cam from an automobile accident.
Yeah.
So if a person's involved in an automobile accident and there's body cam of an officer talking to the parties in that, some police departments are releasing it, other ones are not. The current Attorney General's office has taken the position that it's not in the public's interest, even though it's in that individual public member of the public's interest.
It's funny to say that, because I also requested the body cam footage of the responding officer, but they dragged their feet for so long that they said, "Oh, we destroyed it." But that's my request. They said we destroy it after 60 days. My request for it went in way before 60 days, but they didn't respond to my request until after the 60 days, and then, "Oh, it was destroyed. Sorry, you can't get it." But another thing about transparency, not to monopolize this, but I'm a little executive sessions. Right? I'm on the school committee. We have executive sessions. There are executive sessions that, one, should not be executive sessions. At the end of every executive session, we seal the minutes. Two, there are executive sessions which will expire. Like when a bid is awarded, then you go through the whole process of, the discussion during the executive session should now be open records for the people that bid on the project to make sure no shenanigans happen behind the scenes. Is it Peter Roach? Is that he's the special Attorney General? Well, he gave the training for all the new school committee members at the Rhode Island Association of School Committees, and the training's on video. And in the training, he said, if those things expire, if the reason for the executive session expires, like a teacher who did inappropriate things gets fired, they are no longer a member of the school, or a contract goes out and gets awarded, and it's awarded and the project is done, there's no reason to have it sealed. You should unseal those.
Correct.
Yeah, so we had a vote to unseal a meeting that had nothing to do with anything, or not seal a meeting that had nothing to do, shouldn't have been in an executive session to begin with. And everybody on the school committee freaked out, and they're like, oh, nobody in Rhode Island's ever done this. I'm like, don't you guys remember the training we had from the assistant, the special attorney general, or whatever his name is? And I'm like, they said that once the 24 different exclusions while you have an executive, once that is over, you should unseal those. Ours are sealed in perpetuity for the last 30 years. None of them have been unsealed. You know, and again, there are parents whose children were done harm by a former employee of the school who now don't have access to the records that the school has about exactly what happened to their kids. And to me, that just seems wrong. So I know you're not in a position to do anything about it now.
But when it is.
But I'm just saying that just seems to me to go against the transparency aspect of the reason we have the Open Meetings Act and the Access to Public Records Act.
Unfortunately, someone shouldn't have to file a complaint to get that done. But unfortunately, that's what it takes sometimes to get the wheels rolling.
All right, last question I have. The flat cameras.
Yes.
Flat cameras. So in Cumberland, we have they authorize flat cameras, 6 of them, license plate reader cameras only, right? There's a lawsuit against Cumberland now. I forget the name of the lawsuit because they used the flat cameras to do facial recognition, and they arrested this person, like apparently erroneously. I don't know the specifics of the case. I just know that there is a case against Cumberland. What would be your position on the flat cameras about the facial recognition versus license plate reader?
So as a legislator, I was the first to introduce legislation to regulate flock cameras because that's one of those things that there's no laws surrounding it.
Yeah.
And I believe that there need to be some type of guardrails. I believe flock cameras, these license plate readers, they solve a lot of crimes. We can't get away from that. But we need to ensure that there are certain guardrails in place, that they're not abused, not used for the wrong reasons, which we know as this technology gets better and better, there's always the possibility that someone's going to use it for nefarious purposes. And where I get concerned is, and Flock does a good job of it, where they have a website that shows each department who has access to it, how many cameras are there. Should check out the website. My concern is when you see like Woonsocket or Cranston who has access to it, and you're seeing cities and towns in Texas or other parts of the country having access to these cameras. Yeah. That's where I get a little bit concerned because even though the officers in the state of Rhode Island, I think, are very well trained, I think we're very fortunate to the training that they have. We don't know what's going on across the country, if they're using it the right way. We don't know if they're abiding by a certain policy that our local officers are abiding by for use of these cameras. So we need to build guardrails to ensure that they're being used for the right purposes and not for the wrong.
Well, that's crazy. Yeah, so you're saying the department in Texas can have access?
Yeah, how does that work? Like, is there a database that any police department can access that they can see what's going on in Rhode Island?
That's my understanding. If they have a hit, too, if they enter a license plate and they get a hit in Rhode Island, they have access to those images.
Oh, so they don't have to go through around the department in order to get that. They can go right into a software and grab it themselves.
Yeah. So they try to enter into agreements amongst like the different cities and towns, but right now it's just kind of a verbal agreement. It's what Flock is designed, what their internal policies are. We could have a company that has this technology that they do something completely different than everyone else.
And Flock's, just like every other major company, banks and government facilities, and they've been breached. There was people have accessed their databases before, and I don't pay close attention to it, but when you're scrolling through things, the news every day, you see these stories, stories again, like you said, it would be great to just assume that every person that has access to this information is a completely law-abiding citizen. But, we know that's not the case. We know that there are problems in, schools. Teachers do things that are not the right thing to do. Police officers sometimes do things that are not the right thing to do. And who is there making sure that those people don't have access to that,
There's also concern, too, as to they don't just pick up license plates. They pick up if you have any bumper stickers on the back of a vehicle. So, it could say something pro-life, pro-choice, whatever. It could say, there's always that concern that they could be used to identify certain individuals who might support a cause or might have some emblem on their vehicle or whatnot. And then with AI becoming more and more, we're seeing it everywhere. Artificial intelligence, absolutely everywhere. They're able to look through these videos much more efficiently. So I know you were in the military, and I remember many years ago hearing about all the drone footage in Iraq, about there was so much footage, but there wasn't enough people to go through all the footage that exists. With AI, you can go through that footage very quickly.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening.
Yeah, it's, in the right hands, it's a great tool. In the wrong hands, it's kind of scary.
Yeah.
Especially when you're like, I don't want to say the rebellion, but when you're going when you're going against the status quo of a town, and a lot of these positions serve at the will of the people that are in power.
Yep.
And it's just how do you know that people aren't tracking you? How do you know that people aren't keeping tabs? All you can do is hope they're not. And the overseeing body is a town council who, they meet twice a month for an hour.
Yeah.
They're not there. They're not sitting there with their checks and balances and doing inspections. They're just saying, okay, we passed this ordinance 5 years ago. We're just going to assume that they're complying within the ordinance. But you never know. Again, I don't trust the government.
We're trying to bring trust to the government.
Yeah.
We're gonna change the image.
You're going to change it. I'm in. I'm down for that.
Yes.
You have, how many people work in the Attorney General's office? Do you
Over
know?
250 public servants.
Come on,
Holy
it's a lot of people, right?
It's a lot of people. Definitely a lot of people.
do they
But,
have
we can always use more over there because there's probably about half of attorneys in that office. But there's more. Yeah. But you also got to keep in mind the Attorney General is the lawyer to over 1.1 million Rhode Islanders.
Yeah.
As chief law enforcement officer, every felony is getting prosecuted through the Attorney General's office. Misdemeanors, we have access to misdemeanors. We can prosecute those as well. And if they're appealed, the Attorney General's office handles that appeal. So it's a busy workload. And I got to tell you, the office is full of great people. We're very fortunate. A lot of people with a lot of experience, and we need to train the next generation coming up.
It's going to be on you.
Exactly.
We're sure about
Absolutely.
that. So
I'm excited to do the job. We're just going to get everybody out to vote on September 9th.
Yes.
And they can early vote 20 days before, starting August 20th.
Yep.
Yeah. And they can unaffiliate up until August 10th.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So tell our listeners how they get a hold of you, where they're going to, how they wanted to contribute money to your campaign. Is it all under the
Everything's on my website. A lot of transparency is something I've always been proud of. You can go to joe4ri.com. So it's JOEFORRI.com. You can, my contact information's there, my cell phone, my Act Blue account, which donations can be made. And I'm going to tell you, the race, it's going to take a lot of money to win this race. We're doing very well with the fundraising and everything, but $10, $25, any little bit helps. It makes a difference.
Do you have any fundraisers coming up?
I do actually. So I have one on Thursday, and I'll have one in a couple weeks over at Bar Lazio in Cranston.
and those are all on your website as far as
They'll be on my website.
how you get involved if you want to go and all that kind of thing.
Absolutely. And they can send me an email at joe@joe4ri.com.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Appreciate you coming on. This has been great.
Thank you so much for having me.
No.
Yeah, I'm rooting for you.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, you check a lot of the boxes for us, the stuff that we always advocate for. So, yeah.
So I'm going to toss to you a little bit about.
Yeah, are we on TikTok now, AJ? Are we on
Yeah.
TikTok? So everything gets uploaded to TikTok too?
Yeah, all the reels.
I can't. I wish to God I had all the videos of my cousin Brad reeling against TikTok for years and years and years and years. We could put a montage together. TikTok, Kami China, TikTok, 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 and now we're on TikTok. Unbelievable.
Changed. A lot of that's changed.
Oh, of course it's changed. Of course it's changed.
It's new ownership.
So yeah. So what's that handle on TikTok? Same thing.
I think it's Cumberland Unfiltered.
Cumberland Unfiltered on TikTok. I don't know how that works. I'm not on TikTok.
I'm not either.
Just because it just not because I thought it was like, you know, the worst thing in the world, just because it never appealed to me. All right, Cumberland Unfiltered TikTok, Cumberland Unfiltered Instagram, Cumberland Unfiltered on Facebook, and please, please, please go to YouTube and subscribe. Cumberland Unfiltered at YouTube. We're making headway there, and I guess maybe you don't need it on YouTube because we get so many views.
Yeah, we're getting the views.
70, 80,000 in some cases, and you know.
Well, if they're there anyway, it's an easy thing to do, right? Just click a
Yeah, if you're there,
watch the
if you're
beginning of
there,
a
jump
video.
on YouTube, click subscribe. Yeah, so that's it. And I can guarantee Gary is not doing anything on any of our social media or any of our, you know.
We'll vote Joe Solomon September 9th.
September 9th, yeah, and we got till August 10th. If you like what he talked about, to unaffiliate and vote in a Democratic primary. August 9th or 10th? 9th or 10th? 9th, August 9th.
Give it a couple extra days.
Do it by August 7th.
And you can do it online too. It's very easy on the Secretary of State's website. You don't even have to go into your local board of canvassers. You go right on the Secretary of State website. If you're going to update your voter address, it's the same way as unaffiliating. Very, very simple.
Very simple. Go get it done. Get it done and at least get a little bit. You know, at least get half of what you want. If you're a Democrat or a Republican, you're not going to get all of what you want from any of the candidates, you know. But I'm voting Joe Solomon, September 9th.
Love it.
Me the same. So no mail-in ballots for us.
No, it'll be there in person.
All right. Well, thank you very much again for coming, and I guess we're going to wrap it up. And thanks everybody for listening.
It's a wrap.
Thank you.
Thanks.